I'm John Lemesny. I'm here with Sean Petrowski, and we are doing the customer and the service. And tonight we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is Walmart. You ready to talk about Walmart, Sean?
I'm always ready to talk about Walmart. And in fact, whenever I teach a course in the School of Business, there are a couple courses that I teach that are very IT centered, and then there's a couple courses that I teach that are more business centered. And in my business centered courses, I pretty much reference Walmart at every possible opportunity that I have. So
why do you do this?
Because Walmart is, I think, a great example of many different facets of business. There's just so many different aspects of business that they're involved in that are both like phenomenal examples in a positive way and then phenomenal examples in a negative way.
Tease that out a little bit.
What's that?
Tell me more about that.
All right, so for example, I think Walmart, one of the really positive things about Walmart is that they were one of the first businesses to really see the value in information technology. They were one of the first companies to build out a supply chain partnership. I believe it was with Johnson & Johnson. They were the first business to establish what they call an EDI, which stands for Electronic Document Interchange. And so what that basically meant was, and I think it was built in the 70s, early 70s, maybe even late 60s. And what happened was when Walmart was below on Johnson & Johnson products, it would initiate an automatic order with Johnson & Johnson. So they were the first company to do that, and that gave them a competitive advantage with their ordering. And fast forward to today, and blows my mind even in 2012. They have a data warehouse system that provides them with real-time transactional data. So if you go to the headquarters in Arkansas, let's say I'm in the headquarters in Arkansas in the data center, and then John, you go to the Walmart in Princeton, and you buy a stick of deodorant, they in the headquarters can see that and see that the Princeton Walmart is down one stick of Axe deodorant, roll-on deodorant.
I was with you until you said Axe.
What's that? But they are. I mean, I'm sure a lot of companies are, close to that level of real-time information or have the same level. But they were the first to be able to do that, and that to me is like, that's incredible. I mean, they are somebody that values information technology to the extreme, and I think their business in a large part has been successful because of the importance of IT in their business structure. So that's, to me, that's an example of why I think that's a good example of something that they do amazing.
So that's in the pro column.
Definitely in the pro column.
So let's hear a con column item.
Oh, where to begin? Well, there's.
I mean, maybe you want to let me do that, but I'm interested. What's on the top of your list for cons?
Top of my list for cons. I won't go in as much detail for the cons as I did the pro, but I'll just list them out. Number one is their aggressive nature in destroying all local business that surrounds them. That's number one. Number two is their lack of listening to the communities that their stores impact directly. There's a famous story about how Walmart has fought towns for 10 to 15 years with legal battles to open up a store, even though the towns overwhelmingly don't want them there. There's the issue with the workers, the way the workers are treated and paid. And then something that directly impacts us the most is the quality of service you receive at a Walmart, which is definitely something we'll be talking about tonight.
Yeah.
And finally, the thing that I really don't like about Walmart is how they are branching out into businesses that they really, in my opinion, don't have any place branching out into, like, for example, financial services. And that's something I think that is a slippery slope. If Walmart has been kind of held back from advancing into the financial services realm the way that they wanted to, which is good. But if they had gotten their way, I think that would have been a really, really scary scenario.
So I have to apologize because I'm not familiar with the financial services that you're talking about. I imagine they're sort of like going to have an in-house H&R Block sort of a thing. Or are you talking about the, pay by cash after ordering online thing?
No, I'm talking about they actually now you can pay bills at Walmart. So right now they have like a check cashing, pay bill, Western Union kind of service.
Yeah.
But they wanted to actually offer full-on banking in their stores.
Okay.
Full on.
Well, it makes sense that they would want to have check cashing because, I mean, if you look at a community, I lived in Levittown for a time, right near Five Points in Pennsylvania. Are you familiar with the Five Points in Pennsylvania, in Levittown?
I'm not familiar with the 5 Points, but I am familiar with Levittown.
So Levittown, Pennsylvania started off as a steel town and over time has become sort of a working class community and is often where people choose to go if they want to have a single home and have some semblance of, the American dream and put up with a lot of nonsense for trying to live out that dream. And one of the signs that that community is troubled, in my opinion, is that at 5 Points, which is the coming together of 5 roads going in a star of directions, there are no less than 5, maybe 4 check cashing places. And part of the reason for that is because that community values that. It's a horrible situation. People are not putting money in banks. They're going, taking their check, getting it cashed, and immediately spending the money. Instead of thinking long term, they're thinking short term, and very often thinking about today only, and then suffering for the rest of the month or the rest of the week or whatever the case might be. And check cashing places tend to push this kind of thing in the community because if it becomes acceptable and it becomes normal practice, then whatever. It makes sense for Walmart to want to have one right inside the store because you'll cash your check, go into Walmart, and buy nonsense because they sell nonsense there. They don't sell high-quality products, generally speaking. They sell fast-selling, cheap, high commodity, low value products. That is my opinion, but I mean anybody who has ever walked into a Walmart has evidence of this. We're talking about customer service, and you were talking about technology. There are technological advances such as updating stock information by the moment in a centralized way, which makes a lot of sense. And from a customer service perspective, that's great, especially if they are updating that information and then very quickly restocking because of, whatever. And it makes sense that they would do that. They never want to be out of product that, nobody does, and they can do that, and that's great. But there just seems to be a dismality when you walk in, from the poor greeter at the door to the cashiers at the, there are plenty of places that we go into, and it seems like the people who work there are genuinely joyed to be working there. I'm one of those people. I have joy in my heart when I go to work in the day. And it probably has something to do with difference in salary, but I don't think that is the core of it. Between myself and somebody who works at Walmart, because they also don't pay their workers very well. It is there's no challenge to what they're doing. There's no spirit in what they're doing. They are forced to put a smile on their face. It's part of the corporate culture that you sort of that you follow the happy face that's on your vest. You know, the Walmart's culture is, I think, poisonous, and it's poisonous to the community around it. And not every town, you were just talking about this idea of Walmart fighting towns for 10 to 15 years to get into that community because the town is resisting it. There are plenty of towns that have nothing. They have a beautiful countryside, but they don't have a lot of financial structure otherwise. And it's usually towns like Levittown, Pennsylvania, where there is not necessarily anything but the history of a factory that was in the center of town and things that built up around it. Once those factories go away, Walmart potentially comes in and says, this is a town in ruins. Let's go in and put our box store in the middle of the community, and maybe things will build up around it. But very often, as has happened in Levittown, Pennsylvania, after a time, they just leave and they build a new Walmart down the street. That exact scenario happened in Levittown, where on Levittown Parkway there was a Walmart, and there was a bunch of stores that built up around it, and then the Walmart left and left a gaping hole, you know, sort of in that area, and they went to the other end of Levittown Parkway and opened up a Walmart, a brand new Walmart that was bigger and all that. And communities like that often are very happy that the Walmart is there because it means jobs and it means, you know, all these other things. It means easy, cheap commodity. But there is very often a hidden poison about that. There's, you know, their buying practices, the way that they purchase throughout the world, on, you know, with cents on the dollar for purchasing prices. I would highly recommend it if any of these ideas are foreign to anybody who's watching or listening, that you go and watch any number of documentaries on Walmart and their practices. And we'll talk too about, you know, we have talked in the past about customer service between employer and employee. Walmart crushes unions. Walmart crushes unions, and does so with a vengeance. And they're just not a very good company, in my opinion. They are very successful. They know exactly what they're doing. They are as capitalist as they come. They are very successful at fulfilling their business needs, and if they are not successful, they move on to somewhere else where they can. It reminds me a lot of McDonald's, and it reminds me a lot of other sort of low value, low quality, low nutrition, commodity-based markets. I feel very strongly about Walmart. Is it obvious?
Well, it is obvious, but I too feel very strongly about Walmart, and a lot of things that you've just mentioned there are things that I strongly stand behind. One thing I wanted to share with you is that in grad school there was a case study that we had to read about Walmart, and some of the evidence in that case study actually said that there is actual scientific data that shows that when a Walmart opens up in a community, there's a direct impact in that the crime rate of the town goes up when a Walmart is opened. So there is a... What's that?
I'm surprised by that statistic.
Yeah, no, there's definitely like a definite correlation where I'm not saying it happens at every Walmart, but if you were to, like over a national average, take a look at the crime rates of the towns that before they had a Walmart, and then the crime rates of the town after the Walmart opened, there is definitely a positive trend.
In the case study, was there anything said about why that was?
There were reasons as to theories as to why that was the case. One of them was, I remember that because the Walmart was located typically in a central location, it caused people from the lower income areas of the towns to come in to do shopping in places that they normally wouldn't, and therefore, it would cause, robbery. So like someone would come to the Walmart and say, "Oh, look at this person. They have a Lexus in the parking lot," so they might be more inclined to like rob them in the parking lot. There was a bunch of different theories. It's been many years since I've read that case study, but that was the one that stuck with me, was that it caused people that were more likely to commit a crime to all congregate in a central location. And then you get this melting pot of people from the community. You get the two people from opposite ends, the very poor and maybe not necessarily the very rich, but the middle class or upper middle class that'll shop there, and people will try and take advantage of those different situations.
Well, that is very interesting, because I would actually love to take a look at that study. It seems like there's more to be said there. But we've been talking about customer service a lot in this podcast, and I will do almost anything to avoid going to Walmart. I mean, I've gone there if like I just need a warm place to walk around, and it happens to be open late. Like sometimes they're open 24 hours or whatever. But I never feel good about it. I always feel like I am doing the wrong thing just by being in there, just by sort of being exposed to it. And there's something about the environment when you walk in. It's bigger. There's something warehouse-ish about it. It never seems to be particularly clean. It never particularly seems to be well stocked, despite this technology that you're talking about. It never seems to be organized. It always seems to be a little bit messy. I used to think it was just the Walmart that I was familiar with, but every Walmart that I go in seems to be like this. It's just stuff piled on top of stuff, piled on top of stuff. And you look up and it's just bare, there's no attention paid to the beauty of the experience, as there are in many other department stores that are comparable. As a result, I'm willing to pay a little bit more and go somewhere else. I usually have a fantastic experience in Target. And you can get exactly the same items at one or the other. And the prices are similar. Prices might be higher at Target. But I don't have the same feeling. The culture of the space is different. The culture of the people who work there seems to often be different. And they can be right next to each other, but it seems like a world of difference between the two walk-in experiences.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with what the companies themselves value. And it seems like Target values design and like flair.
Yeah.
And Walmart values low prices, and high volume sales. And that's two drastic differences in running a company. I mean, like I said, you have a company that's focused on kind of like in that Apple philosophy of creating something unique and enjoyable, and even though it's like a commodity retail experience, Target still is putting forth an effort into creating something unique and enjoyable. And they also attract different designers as well for their product lines. And that Walmart is just the complete opposite. They just are like, we want to get something built quickly, we want to get people in and out, and we want them to spend the lowest prices possible.
And that's a very interesting point as far as I'm concerned, because there is a difference between the attention paid to detail and design in Apple versus other products, and attention paid to detail and design in Walmart or Target versus other comparable companies. The common theme, though, between Walmart at the low end of design and Apple at the high end of design is that there is an underlying sense of self-preservation versus customer preservation. You know, the effort is to benefit the self rather than to benefit the consumer. In my opinion, that is what I see. When I walk into Walmart, I feel like I am there to serve them rather than they are there to serve me. That is my interpretation. I feel the same way at Apple. If I don't offer value to Apple, they do not want me there. Whereas in Target, I almost feel like Target's not a great example because I think that Walmart and Target are actually very similar. You know, if we were talking more of like a boutique or certain kinds of independent shops or certain kinds of vintage shops, not necessarily chains, but some proprietor who just happens to own some great place that sells a lot of cool stuff and welcomes you really strongly when you walk in the door or whatever. There's a benefit to that that has nothing to do with the product. I can get the product anywhere. I can get the product online. What is the benefit to me walking through the door? And the benefit has to be culture, because I can get a better price online. If I'm patient, I can wait for that thing to come through the mail. You know, usually if I'm going into a brick and mortar store, it's because I want to handle the item in question, not necessarily because I can purchase it for, you know, that I'm going to get a lower price or anything like that by walking into the store. Usually it's because I want to touch it, feel it, and have it as I walk out. Amazon really is an amazing long-term threat for all of these brick and mortar stores, which seems obvious now, but maybe was not as obvious, you know, 5 years ago. If I can just have patience, if I can just wait the 2 days for something to come through the mail because I have Prime, that's not an issue. And Amazon, of course, is perfecting having warehouses in the same kinds of spaces or at the same distance from you as the Walmart is. So as long as they have the products that I'm looking for, the commodity products in the Amazon warehouse that is closest to me, the same way that Netflix has a warehouse of DVDs that is close to me and can get things to me in a day, now Amazon is focusing on same-day delivery as a deliverable.
Right.
And man, I mean, why would I go to a Walmart if I could go to Amazon, order it, and have it at my door that day?
Yeah, why would you? There's no reason whatsoever.
You know, and I think about all the negative interactions I've had with at the register at Best Buy or Walmart, and if there's not a positive experience at the register, if there's not a positive experience when I walk through the door, if there is not an enhancing, beneficial culture to the space that I'm going to, why would I ever go in? Speaking of which, is there anything else you want to say about Walmart?
Well, you know, when you talked about the concept of, you know, like when you walk into an Apple store, if you don't have anything to offer Apple, they don't pay attention to you. And then you were making a comparison to Walmart. I think that's 100% true about Walmart, because if you listen, I mean, I've watched a lot of documentaries about Walmart over the years, and the best ones that I've enjoyed the most are the ones that CNBC has produced over the years. There's been about 2 or 3 of them that they've done, and they're absolutely phenomenal. And I think
those are on Netflix, are they not?
They might be. I haven't looked. I know CNBC on the weekends runs a lot of their produced specials on reruns. So usually, like on Sunday nights, they'll do a block of all their Walmart specials or something. But the one that I like the most is something called like the price of low prices or something like that, or the price of it's something along those lines. You can get it on iTunes actually, because a professor of mine, I got her to buy it so she could show it to her students. But they actually have. I remember they actually got.
I'm totally going to do that, Sean.
You should. It's excellent.
I'm
They
going
have.
to open up iTunes.
They have a cooperation actually from the like real upper echelons of Walmart management, like where people sit down and do interviews with them. And they actually asked them about like this town that they fought for 15 years, and it's really hard-hitting stuff. And I give CNBC a tremendous amount of credit for being as aggressive as they were with Walmart. But the one thing that stood out in my mind that I think chimes in well to the point you were trying to make is that the CEO or the executive that they interviewed basically feels like Walmart's mission is to offer their customers low prices. So if that's their main focus, they're not focused on offering better service, higher quality goods, a unique shopping experience. None of these things. We're just going to offer the lowest price possible. Then there's going to be sacrifices made at every other aspect of service.
And there's something to be said for trying to achieve a goal and achieving it, which they do.
No, they do, no doubt.
The question is what the downside is to that. And, I think that there is a correlation in business between low prices at any cost and loss of health, loss of value, loss of aesthetic, loss of, so many of the important things in life that you let go of just because, there's a reason that you can bring $3 into a McDonald's and eat a day's worth of calories, and not really think about it. Because there is a correlation between low price at any cost and a lack of interest in health and nutrition. And I feel like the same thing is going on at Walmart. You may get the lowest priced thing at Walmart, but you're probably going to be missing out on high quality, beautiful aesthetics, long lasting quality, high nutrition. Although Walmart has paid attention recently, and I've seen this because of other documentaries about nutrition, they're trying very, very hard to get things like organic foods into their stores because that's what customers want and that's what they're demanding.
Yeah, but let's talk about that for a second, actually. I'm glad you brought that up, the specific aspect of nutrition. Now, I don't consider myself to be a nutrition person. I'm not a very health food conscious, that's not my thing. You and I are at opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to nutritional knowledge.
Well, is it something that you are trying to do?
Not really. No. But the point that I'm trying to make is that with someone like myself who's got very minimal knowledge of nutrition, there's to me, with mine, I do have something that I do have knowledge about is the concept of corporate farms and versus locally grown, and the quality of nutritional values in produce when it's grown in Guatemala and then shipped here versus if it's grown 5 miles away and vice versa.
The cost of all that and the gas and the pollution that's made and
that is something I am aware of. But so that's my point that I'm trying to make is a Walmart, if they're trying to offer the lowest cost food, okay, and you look at you have a super Walmart, and we don't have super Walmarts in New Jersey. We have Walmarts that are kind of have a grocery store in them, but the concept of a super Walmart is a Walmart that is a full retail store but also a full grocery store.
Like many of our Targets.
Yeah, but to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
they have them in Pennsylvania, I believe.
Yeah, they are. If you were to look at the nutritional value of what's called we'll call it the fresh food, your butcher, your meats from the butcher, the produce section, your seafood section, maybe your deli meats, maybe deli meats not so much, but definitely seafood, produce, and butcher. And you would probably look at the nutritional content of that food versus the nutritional content of food at a place like Trader Joe's or a place like Terhune Orchards or or even a Whole Foods. And I guarantee you that there is probably a gross difference between the level of nutritional value in all those other stores versus what Walmart's offering. And if you look at the people that go to Walmart, I'm not trying to generalize, I'm not trying to stereotype, but there's a trend in our country of, like there's websites called, People of Walmart, and that kind of zero in on the people that go to Walmart. And the thing that sticks out of my mind that makes me sad is in a lot of different parts of our country, Middle America, the South, there's a correlation with people that shop at Walmart with obesity, malnutrition, health problems related to dietary issues. And if you were to probably look at what they're buying at Walmart, you know what I mean? If they are buying produce, if they are buying butcher meat, if they are buying seafood, and they're not even getting the nutritional value out of that, on top of the fact that they're able to buy, 20 gallons of mayonnaise for $3. The running joke in our country is that we're like fat, obese, lazy, shitbags. And if you look at the majority of our country who have nowhere to go for groceries or food items except for a place like Walmart, that's probably going to has a direct impact on why we look the way we do in the United States. And I don't think anyone's really talking about that.
There are people talking about that, in fact, and it's mostly found in independent documentaries that talk about these issues, like Food Incorporated, or any number that are not necessarily about the corporate structure, but rather the impact of suppliers such as Walmart, McDonald's, etc. If you drive down Main Street America, the boulevard, not the small town Main Street, but where whatever brand wants to be there only has to pay whatever price to be there. Essentially, wherever there's a Walmart, there's usually a Target, a McDonald's, a Burger King, a Subway, a KFC, and that is the American diet, right? The funniest thing in the world is getting off a plane in some other part of the country and running to go into a McDonald's, or going to France and going to a McDonald's. It's the most bizarre. Why would you do that? And part of the reason is because of the familiarity of it, because you know what's in there. That group of foods is not foreign. Even though you're in a foreign place, there's a familiarity and a comfort and a expectation that you have when you walk in, that the hamburger that you would have gotten at home is the same hamburger that you would have gotten there. The problem is the hamburger. And there is a difference. You were talking about the nutritional value of the produce section of Walmart and the produce section of your local farmer's market. And I would argue that the nutritional value is actually often identical. If you go to a Walmart and you get a bag of oranges, and you go to or a bag of apples, and you go to the local farm here, you actually mentioned them before, Terhune Orchards, and get a basket of apples, the nutritional value will be identical. It will have the same amount of carbohydrates, the same amount of protein, and the same amount of fat, mostly carbohydrates because it's an apple. What the value is of Terhune Orchards versus the Walmart apples has to do with the amount of gasoline that was used to transport it, the amount of pollution that was made in order to do that. The amount of pesticides that was made, the way that the plants were grown. And this is not to say that Terhune Orchards is an organic farm. They have organic offerings, I believe, but I know for a fact that they use pesticides there, so that those particular plants are not organic at all. But there are great benefits to buying local, whether it be meat, whether it be apples, whether it be whatever. Not to mention, when you're paying money to Walmart to support a Washington State farm, as opposed to paying money to Terhune Orchards to support that farm directly, you are sending your money elsewhere and potentially damaging your local ecology, potentially damaging your local finances, potentially damaging your local community. Whereas when you support a local community, and Terhune Orchards, for example, is not just a farm, it's a gathering place. It's a place where people can learn about farming. It's a place where you can go and speak to somebody who picked those apples. It's a place where you can go and take part in a festival that has to do with apples. There is so much more going on with the apples at Terhune Orchards from a beneficial standpoint than the apples that you picked up at the Walmart for so many depths and layers of reasons. The nutritional value in this particular case is not the issue. However, when you are at Walmart, right next to the apples is pre-cut apples dipped in caramel, topped with chocolate, sold from a company in New Mexico that nobody should eat. Or if you're going to eat that, like, make that yourself. Make yourself some caramel, make yourself some chocolate.
Right.
Source your chocolate and your sugar from someplace that you know where it is. Maybe support your locality. And learn how to cook, because learning how to cook is a personal skill that makes you better as a person. There's so much wrong.
It's 10 o'clock.
There's so much wrong with the way that we don't think about the origins of food. And it is so closely related to why so many of us are obese, and why food is such a mystery, and why we don't know what we're putting in our mouths. It's sad. It's really horrible. We're in a sad place.
Yeah, we are, but you know, I think there's a lot of things that are going on. I think, and this is kind of, I think I'm proving my own point here. But you know, I demonstrated earlier the lack of knowledge I have about food. But yet,
I certainly was not trying to call you out. I just want to be clear to anybody who's listening, because another one of my interests is informing people about nutrition. So
no, I didn't feel called out at all. But my point is that, and this is the point that I'm trying to make, is that I feel like awareness of these problems that you're speaking of are reaching a whole new level, because even someone like me, who is not necessarily hyper concerned about the food I consume at all times, is aware of the problems that are going on with our food supply and how it is impacting our nation. And I talk to a lot of people who are like really into like CrossFit and stuff. There's personal friends that Crystal and I have that own a CrossFit gym, and I got into a conversation with them specifically about this issue, and how it's basically like there's a trend that's emerging that, and I shared my feelings of this, and they felt they saw the same thing. And the trend is like, the blue states, if you will, the states on the coast, the quote unquote educated part of the nation, is kind of turning away from the mass Walmart national food outlet for their nutritional and food needs, and turning to like a hyper local food experience. Like Terhune Orchards only offers really like fruits and a very limited amount of vegetables, but there are places that we can go in Princeton to get cheeses, and we can go to a farm and get us. Like, there's a guy at Princeton that works with us in the facilities department who, as a side job, runs a steer farm. And people will buy a steer, and he will host it on his land. He will feed it. He will raise the steer, but it's the people's steer. And we're not talking about like other farmers. We're talking about you and I, John, decide to buy a steer.
Yeah.
This guy raises it for us, and he butchers it for us, and he slaughters it for us. And people are getting turned on to this in areas like where we live in California, in Vermont, and New Hampshire, where organic farming was like already going on there, but now it's getting, more and more people are seeing the value to it, and so there's a change going on in these areas. But it's like I said, it's the middle of our country, it's the southern parts of our country that are still relying on these national outlets, and it's negatively affecting, the health of our nation. And I know you said Walmart is trying to focus on organic foods, and offering those products, but you and I both know there are companies that sell quote-unquote organic foods because the FDA has very loose requirements to call yourself organic. You know what I mean?
I have some disagreements with that. I mean, there are very specific things that need to be met in order to be organic. Whether or not every company is living up to those stringent rules is another matter. But I mean, there are investigations that have to be done for any organic food in order for it to be given the term organic. There are many defenses of organic foods.
I'm not damning organic foods as a whole, but my point that I'm trying to make is that there was a time where Whole Foods, for example, was a bastion of organic products, where you knew you could go to a Whole Foods and you were getting food from a company that was ethical, responsible, and took the term organic seriously. And now that Whole Foods has become the monolith that it is, the high profit, high valued stock profit center that it is now today in 2012, I know a lot of people who are into nutrition like you are, and they've seen different products change in Whole Foods, and some of the products that are being offered in places like Whole Foods are being offered by companies that are not as responsible as the companies that used to be sold in places like Whole Foods. So, and it's because they're seeing that the profit margins are better if they offer this, So that's my point, is that Walmart could, even though they're offering organic products, are they offering responsible organic products? And that would be my concern, is that we know Walmart's track record, we know the quality of service, the quality of goods that they offer their people. If they're going to start offering these organic products, I would be very suspicious of their quality.
Well, we should talk about this at length. I think we should probably talk about the state of nutrition and the way that it affects customers, because I think that offering high-quality, healthful foods when possible to customers is a form of customer service, because you're serving them in a larger sense. And there are certainly companies who are not interested in doing that at all, but rather there are many authors who talk about this idea of fast food companies like McDonald's taking an eat more philosophy to the way that they sell their food. The reason you can get two things for the price of one, or any of those things, is because the more food that you eat, the less healthy you are, the more likely you are to continue buying the food, because you give up on caring about many books. I should set up a bibliography of books and documentaries about this topic. But,
it's funny you mentioned the McDonald's thing, and I have kind of like an interest in fast food. The fast food industry is something I'm not a person that eats fast food every day. That's definitely not where I'm at. But I enjoy fast food from time to time, probably once a week if I do that. But it's an industry that is fascinating to me, and I've done a lot of research. Wendy's is a company that I've done exhaustive amount of research on Wendy's. McDonald's is another company, and I just want to point out is that now McDonald's is kind of taking a Ben and Jerry's or like Starbucks approach to their product sourcing. So recently there was a video that was put out by McDonald's of Canada where they talked about they specifically addressed the issue about how the beef that McDonald's sells is washed in ammonia or whatever, this rumor that's going around.
Pink slime.
Yeah, or that too. But this specific video was about the ammonia thing, and they actually spoke to like this guy. I don't remember who he was at McDonald's, but he actually talked about how McDonald's is switching now to local providers of meat. So he talked, he was at the specific slaughterhouse, and so really, I don't know if that's going on in America, but I would guarantee that they're making inroads into that. That the beef that you would get at McDonald's would come, in New Jersey, would come from a slaughterhouse that's maybe 60 miles away. You know what I mean? As opposed to a slaughterhouse in Texas or wherever else you want to put at an extreme geographic distance.
Part of the reason why Microsoft, part of the reason why McDonald's sources their meat from macro farms in the middle of the country is because there's no way that they would be able to source their beef without having miles and miles of beef farms to support it. Go watch Food Inc. Go watch Food Inc. Go watch Food Inc. Go watch Food Inc. It shows you the issue that we are facing as a nation because our appetite for fast food has far exceeded reason. It is not reasonable, and our diets have changed. Our diets have come to expect the foods that McDonald's provides. And it's not just you or me. If it was just you or me, McDonald's would have a hard time staying in business because we are not going to put anybody out of business with our food needs. It is the mass of people who go into these buildings every day, who get most of their meals from McDonald's because that's what they think the best way to spend their $5 that they can feed them or per person. They figure the dollar menu is my savior because whatever. So they eat this meat, and they eat it every day, and it's a main part of it's a staple of their diet. That meat has to come from somewhere. If a local McDonald's had to support the amount of meat that they sell from Terhune Orchards or from the local beef farm, the local beef farm would have to become a mass producer. And the local beef farm is probably not interested in being a mass producer, or else they'd be somewhere else where all that's already going on. Go watch Food Inc. It's a fantastic exploratory documentary on the topic. Highly biased, but a great, great story.
Yeah, I've wanted to see that one, and another one that's been in my Netflix queue for a while is Fork Over Knives. And
Fork Over Knives is a great one too.
I haven't gotten around to watching them yet. I mean, it's something that, my girlfriend is pescatarian. She's a former vegetarian and a former vegan as well, and it's something that she's I've learned more about nutrition and food through her, and we've watched a lot of different reports over the years and documentaries about nutrition and food, and that's this idea that I'm the ideas that I'm expressing today about the things that I do know are mostly I can credit to her opening my eyes to that. And it's crazy what's going on, and like I said, with the little knowledge I do have, it's even obvious to me that we are, like you said, we are in trouble. But at the same time, I think that companies like McDonald's, and I know you want to damn them, but they're under such a microscope because of things like Super Size Me, because of these different biased reports that are going out. This report about the meat being in ammonia and the pink slime and all that other stuff. That they are under such a microscope that I feel like they have no choice but to demonstrate how responsible they are being.
So that's an issue because the foodborne illnesses can be lethal, and adding ammonia to beef is not lethal, but rather not necessarily damaging to flavor, health, or whatever. In other words, it's edible. It
Right.
is presented in an edible state, even though it had to go through an ammonia bath.
Right.
The ammonia is acceptable as far as the FDA is concerned, as far as the powers that be are concerned. My issue is, why are we eating ammonia?
Well, I'm trying to say to you that we're not eating it at
No.
McDonald's. At McDonald's, we're not.
I'm saying go watch Food Inc.
Okay.
Because
But here's my problem. Why is the FDA saying that ammonia is okay? That's really my problem.
Because
It's not the
food-
companies.
because the food that is produced is better off for having the ammonia. Because the interest is not in the quality of the food, the interest is in the quantity of the food.
No, I understand that.
Because
But that still doesn't mean it should make it okay.
it's better than having it have E. coli in it. That is the FDA's stance. Whether or not they shout that from the rooftops or not is another issue. What's acceptable is not having people die from beef. What is acceptable is not having people die from beef. And if ammonia or other alcohol or other substances kill that E. coli, as well as irradiated beef and other kinds of experiments, essentially.
Right.
If that takes care of that problem, and people do not die from eating a hamburger, then we are better off, right? But my argument is, are we better off with the ammonia hamburger that does not kill us, or having a lot less hamburgers, maybe locally sourced from somebody who cares enough that doesn't do beef in such a huge quantity that they need ammonia in order to keep it clean?
Well, that's. I think you and I are absolutely on the same page there, and that is something that I absolutely would support. You know what I mean? Like for example.
It requires you to possibly give up McDonald's. It would require, in other words, the argument is that the reason that we have ammonia in beef is because it's the only way that we can have as much beef as we have now. It's the only way.
I understand.
Yeah. It's sad. It's really a scary state. But people love hamburgers. It's an American thing. People love hamburgers.
I fucking love hamburgers.
I personally have moved to flexitarianism, mostly vegetarianism. I really have to get going, Sean. But we should talk about this because we didn't talk about Walmart nearly as much as this. This seems like a really interesting topic to continue on.
Sure.
All right. And I had some shout outs to give. I want to say Panera Princeton, you guys are fantastic. You do a great job. I shook the hand of the manager yesterday and told him that I was watching the way that he was interacting with his employees and making sure that they were staying on task, and the interactions I had with the employees there. I just want to say, if you're interested in a good Panera experience, even though that is very much a fast food experience, consider Panera Princeton. I also want to say, if you want a great cup of coffee and you are in Princeton, of course, we've mentioned Starbucks before, but I spent this evening in Small World Coffee in Princeton on Nassau, on Witherspoon, and have gone to the Nassau location many, many times and met the owner tonight. A very nice woman. I won't mention her name because I didn't tell her I was going to mention her name, but I told her that in the future I was going to sit down and talk with her about customer service, because that place understands how to build culture inside four walls. Small World Coffee knows how to build culture inside four walls, and I love that culture there. It's not about the coffee. I can get the coffee in 40 places in that square 4 blocks of Princeton. I always prefer to go to Small World Coffee or Starbucks, but Small World has a different culture yet than even Starbucks does. So thank you so much, Sean. We will do this again next week, and we'll have our normal extended period of time. Always love talking with you, and we are not going to have our show next week because of Thanksgiving. I wanted to say how thankful I am for you, and I'm looking forward to talking with you again next week.
Well, I am equally thankful for you. I hope you and your family have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hope all of our T-Cats out there
T-Cats!
have a wonderful Thanksgiving as well, and we will see you in, what it'll be? It'll be on the 29th of November.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
For episode 11.
Episode 11. Till then, Sean.
Till then, John. See ya.
I'll see you.